Cosimo Di Lauro was never the mastermind his father Paulo was. Born into one of the most powerful Gomorrah families in Naples, his path was shaped by vanity and ruthless ambition. With no real aptitude for business or leadership, Cosimo's rise was brief but devastating. When he took over the Di Lauro clan after his father's escape, he purged senior members, replacing them with younger, loyal lieutenants. This reckless move sparked a brutal civil war that left over 100 dead in Naples. Cosimo Di Lauro was never known for being the brightest or the most cunning member of his family. Unlike his father or some of his brothers, he lacked the sharp intellect and strategic mind that were vital to maintaining control over a criminal empire. Nor did he possess the charisma or business acumen needed to command loyalty. Yet, despite these deficiencies, he was consumed by an overwhelming desire to prove himself. His ambition to be the prince of one of the most feared and respected families in the Neapolitan Gomorrah led him down a path of destruction. Unable to live up to the legacy he inherited, his reign triggered a violent implosion that not only tore apart his family's criminal network but also sowed chaos among their allies. Di Lauro was sentenced to 2 life terms for his involvement in numerous murders and his deep ties to mafia activity. He spent his final years in a Milanese prison, confined to the harsh conditions of the 41-bis solitary confinement regime, reserved for the most dangerous Italian mafiosi. On a fateful Monday, at the age of 49, Cosimo was found dead in his cell under circumstances that remain unclear. Roberto Saviano, the renowned writer and chronicler of the Italian mafia, captured the tragic essence of Cosimo's fall from grace in a poignant social media post. He died today, alone, desperate, literally mad in a prison. He could have tried to redeem himself, but he didn't. He refused to be the first in his family to do so. Everyone betrayed him, and in turn, he betrayed everything. What is perhaps most ironic about Cosimo Di Lauro's legacy is that his most lasting contribution was not in his underworld dealings, but as the muse for the character of Gennaro Savastano in Gomorrah, the television series inspired by Saviano's book. Savastano, like Cosimo, was a young man who inherited a vast and powerful criminal empire, yet lacked the discipline and vision to hold it together. Cosimo, with his notorious obsession for designer clothes, earning him the nickname Designer Don, became the blueprint for the television character, impulsive, vain, and driven by a reckless need to assert dominance. However, even in the fictional portrayal, Gennaro's capabilities and control over his chaotic world far exceeded those of Cosimo in reality. Cosimo never managed to escape the shadow of his more capable siblings, nor could he match the legacy of his father, Paulo Di Lauro, the legendary patriarch who built the family's empire in the Neapolitan slums. Paulo's leadership was marked by a shrewd ability to balance violence with diplomacy, allowing him to command loyalty through a network of alliances. This intricate system of control, based on mutual benefit and respect, crumbled under Cosimo's leadership. His brutal approach alienated former allies, and his decision to turn freewheeling affiliates into subservient employees ignited a bloody civil war. This conflict would be the beginning of the end for the once mighty Di Lauro clan. Saviano, one of the most insightful observers of the world Cosimo inhabited, described him as a tragically flawed figure. In an interview, he remarked, "Cosimo was an incredible figure, but in the worst possible way. He was a man who desperately wanted to prove his worth to his father and those around him. But when given the opportunity, he shattered the carefully crafted system his father had built. His actions were a betrayal of everything that had been designed to ensure the clan's survival." The image of Gennaro Savastano trying to win his father's approval mirrors Cosimo's own tragic life. In his endless quest for validation, especially from his mother, Cosimo resorted to extreme and ruthless violence. Yet, despite his efforts, he never achieved the power or recognition he so desperately sought. It is impossible to fully grasp the complexities of Cosimo Di Lauro, a man with a penchant for vanity, long flowing hair, and a wardrobe that was exclusively black, without understanding the looming presence of his father, Paulo Di Lauro. Cosimo's identity and trajectory were inextricably tied to the shadow cast by his father, a legendary figure in the Neapolitan underworld. Paulo Doro's rise to power was the stuff of criminal folklore. Born to a modest, adoptive family in the gritty Secondigliano neighborhood, Paulo cut his teeth as a street vendor, hawking counterfeit goods to make ends meet. His early career, however, took a fateful turn when he began working under the notorious local capo, Aniello Lamonica, whose brutal reputation earned him the nickname The Butcher for his savage method of tearing out the hearts of his victims. Doro, learning the ropes of extortion, smuggling, and violence under Lamonica, quickly developed an insatiable hunger for more power and autonomy. As often happens in the cutthroat world of organized crime, Doro eventually turned on his mentor, murdering the very man who had paved the way for him. This act of betrayal allowed him to strike out on his own, and with a keen eye for opportunity, Paulo realized where the future of the criminal world lay, especially in Scampia, a bleak area where towering public housing projects had been erected. These buildings, originally meant to provide shelter for the city's poorest residents, soon transformed into one of the largest drug markets in all of Europe under Doro's watchful eye. Despite the ruin and misery that Paulo Doro's reign brought to the residents of Scampia, he somehow managed to maintain an aura of beneficence among his affiliates. To them, he was not merely a crime lord but a figure almost blessed by heaven. As proof of his divine favor, they often pointed to his large family, 10 sons, as if bestowed by some higher power. Yet, behind the mythology of Paulo Doro, there was a colder, more calculating reality. In the ledgers seized by law enforcement during their investigations, the patriarch's children were listed in a matter-of-fact, chronological order. Each son was recorded with a clinical precision, F1, F2, F3, and so on, F standing for figlio, the Italian word for son. The firstborn, Cosimo, was simply known as F1, and this designation would follow him throughout his life. As Paulo's eldest, Cosimo carried the heavy burden of being the heir to a criminal empire that his father had meticulously built over decades. Yet, in the eyes of many, Cosimo lacked the qualities that had made his father so successful. Paulo, known for his cold, strategic mind and his ability to rule from the shadows, rarely left his house, carefully orchestrating every move with precision. He avoided unnecessary attention and ensured that his operations ran smoothly, even as his empire grew ever more powerful. Cosimo, by contrast, seemed more concerned with appearances. His vanity and impulsiveness were glaring departures from his father's more subdued nature. The millionaire, who was hiding aboard a luxurious yacht docked in the port of Naples after his dramatic escape, had forever changed the landscape of the drug trade. With a vision that set him apart from his rivals, he forged strong, direct ties with Colombian producers, enabling him to slash the price of cocaine at the source. This was a game-changer, as it allowed him to eliminate the middlemen who had traditionally played a key role in the trade. By doing so, he opened up new markets, engaging in fierce competition with some of the most powerful criminal organizations in Europe. His clan's reach extended across all of Italy, and within their home turf of Naples, they established a stronghold in Scampia, most notably in the infamous Candle Buildings, massive housing blocks that became notorious for their role in the city's drug trade. Under his leadership, they set up more than 20 drug-selling stations, turning the area into a veritable supermarket for narcotics. Cosimo's rise to power came when his father, Paulo Doro, went into hiding. As the eldest son, Cosimo naturally stepped into the role of leader, taking the reins of the Doro clan, but his time at the top was short-lived. Upon assuming control, he immediately made bold moves to reshape the organization. In a controversial and violent power play, he purged the clan's ranks of its senior leadership, executing long-serving members, referred to as senators, to replace them with a younger generation of lieutenants whom he trusted more. These fresh recruits were loyal to him personally, and their youth and ambition seemed to fit Cosimo's vision for the future of the clan. However, this decision was made without the approval of his father, and it triggered a devastating internal conflict. This conflict, known as the Fighter of 2004 and 2005, erupted between the Doro clan and a faction of dissidents led by Rafael Amado, a man once in charge of the clan's Spanish operations. Amato's group, known as the Secessionists or the Spaniards, broke away from the Di Lauros in a violent rebellion. The streets of Naples, particularly in and around Scampia, became a battleground, and the ensuing bloodshed left over 100 dead. Bodies littered the city, as both factions unleashed their firepower in a brutal struggle for control. This civil war within the Gomorrah greatly weakened the Di Lauro organization, diminishing their once formidable power. By 2005, the patriarch Paulo Doro, who had remained in hiding throughout the conflict, was finally captured. Despite the authorities' inability to capture a single word of his voice in the hundreds of wiretaps they conducted, Di Lauro was sentenced to 3 life terms in solitary confinement. His arrest marked the end of an era for the Di Lauro clan, yet the fallout from Cosimo's leadership would continue to haunt them. Cosimo, having ignited the conflict that tore his family apart, was arrested shortly after his father. As the authorities closed in on the remaining members of the organization, the clan's power structure unraveled further. By a process of elimination, Marco Di Lauro, the 4th son, referred to as F4 in his father's coldly systematic ledgers, assumed leadership of what remained of the once great Di Lauro empire. However, Marco's reign, too, came to an end with his arrest in 2019, marking the final collapse of the family's stranglehold on Naples' underworld. Yet, even with the Di Lauros behind bars, their legacy remains deeply imprinted on the neighborhood of Secondigliano, a northern district of Naples. The scars of the clan's violent reign are still visible, and the area has spent years trying to heal from the wounds left by their rule. The name Di Lauro continues to evoke fear, and Secondigliano struggles to overcome the stigma associated with its infamous past. While the clan's empire has crumbled, the echoes of their reign, both urban and social, still linger, reminding the people of Naples of the dark times they endured.